Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, the gentlelady from Michigan, and its members are butchers that you like to hang out with to a certain extent. No nation can be fully sovereign when an armed group operates outside the authority of its elected. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we getting a little emotional? I certainly believe you advocate for them, yes. You advocate for terrorists on a daily basis.
The House will be in order.
You advocate for a terrorist regime every single day from the Jenny lady from Michigan.
The House will be in order.
That was Representative Max Miller calling Rashida Tlaib a terrorist. She objected. She was introducing a bill that would actually say that we should not support Israel's invasion of Lebanon. That's why she's getting such huge blowback. Now, what we're gonna tell you in this story is, which side did the Democrats take? Did they take Rashida Tlaib's side? Or did they take the Republican and Israeli side? I know you're on the edge of your seat, and then I'll tell you how I think I would have reacted in that same circumstance, which is very different than how Rashida Tlaib reacted. Anna, tell us all about it.
Well, as we've been talking about on this show, Congress has tried and failed multiple times to pass war powers resolutions in regard to reining in the executive branch and the Trump administration specifically in regard to the war against Iran. Yesterday, for the first time, that resolution passed, but it was specifically in regard to the war against Iran. Now, what Rashida Tlaib is trying to do is pass a war powers resolution in regard to what is going down in Lebanon. And what she wants to do is essentially prevent the United States from offering military aid or any type of support to the IDF as they carry out the complete destruction of villages and land annexation in southern Lebanon under the guise of fighting Hezbollah. And by the way, I should note that Israel has also attacked Lebanon north of the Litani River. So it isn't just southern Lebanon that is carrying the brunt or bearing the brunt of Israel's aggression. And in this case, Rashida Tlaib is saying we as Congress should rein the executive branch in. That is our purpose in the system of checks and balances. In fact, here's Tlaib explaining how the US is complicit in Israel's war crimes in Lebanon.
On March 12th, Israeli media reported that President Trump approved, quote, approved the ground incursion by Israel into Lebanon, quote, also authorizing expanding if necessary. Also on April 8th, Axios reporter said live on a mainstream media, quote, without the green light of Donald Trump, you wouldn't have seen Israel go ahead with this very massive strikes in Lebanon. Literally strikes that killed that day 250 people. On May 6th, Israel saw and was granted Trump's, quote, green light for its May 6th strike on Beirut, Mr. Speaker, coordinated with the United States in advance, according to Israeli officials. Not us, but the Israeli officials are telling us that the Trump administration is helping. There's unprecedented public record of direct and overt US command and coordination over Israeli hostilities in Lebanon goes alongside deep US-Israeli operation integration, which American people don't want. Congress must reassert its authority and cut off US support for this cruelty and this destruction.
So that's incredibly straightforward, and we are supposed to believe that when it comes to our political duopoly that we live under, right, Democrat versus Republican, well, since this is a Democrat proposing it and she's rebuking President Trump in aiding and abetting Israel's war crimes, well, Democrats are gonna side with Rashida Tlaib and voting in favor of this war powers resolution.
Obviously.
Right?
Right.
But that's not what happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. That is so strange. Democrats betraying their own and 80% of their voters to vote with Israel that gave them, well, I don't know how much exactly went to the Democrats in this last cycle, but tens of millions of dollars.
Yes, absolutely.
Huh, that's weird. After being legally bribed by the supporters of a foreign government,
right,
they chose the foreign government over American voters. That's gotta be a first, Anna.
But you have to, look, Cenk, this is really important. In fact, this is the most important thing that all of us must understand and take to heart. What Cenk just said is anti-Semitic. Okay? Because you should never allude to the reality that Israel and its lobby controls members of our government. Okay, so in this case, this story, when it first broke, Axios had reported that there were a few wishy-washy Democrats, right? Democrats who said they were on the fence. That included Representatives Greg Meeks of New York, noted, Adam Smith of Washington, he's gonna make another appearance on the show today, noted, and Jim Himes, who's a Democrat from Connecticut. They're like, yeah, we don't know. We don't know if we want to rein in the Trump administration's support of Israel's war crimes in southern Lebanon. And then there are the Democrats who flat out said that they are against Rashida Tlaib's resolution. But what's really interesting here, or War Powers Act resolution, what's really interesting here though is in the Axios piece, none of them were willing to go on the record with their names. They spoke to Axios anonymously. I wonder why they did that. Maybe it's because they realized that the vast majority of Democratic voters, people they need to get reelected, are against providing military aid and support to Israel as it continues to conduct atrocities in not just southern Lebanon, but in multiple countries, multiple neighbors of theirs have been struck by Israel. So anyway, let's get to what they had to say, these Democrats who wouldn't go on the record with their names. One anonymous senior House Democrat said, people are not happy that Tlaib is making people take this vote.
Oh, I love that quote. I'm gonna come back to it.
By the way, Congresswoman Tlaib, thank you for doing this. I support it 100%. She has the ability to force a vote on a war powers resolution, and I'm glad that she did it. See, when you take action, you get positive reinforcement, you get kudos. Action is what we care about, not small talk, BS promises that never come to fruition. House Democrats are caught between their wariness about being seen as condoning Israel's actions and the fact that there is no indication the US is planning imminent large-scale ground operations in Lebanon. It doesn't matter, we're supplying the weaponry. Okay, we have blood on our hands, we are paying for it and we're supplying the weaponry. There are also concerns among Democratic leadership that the resolution could hamper the US's current efforts to combat Hezbollah. Lawmakers, aides, and other sources familiar with the internal discussions told Axios, Israel should stop occupying southern Lebanon, they should pull out, they should sign a ceasefire deal, and it'll be done. But Israel doesn't want to do that, they want to continue occupying southern Lebanon. Cenk, back to you.
Okay, so now let's tackle these Democrats, and then I'll tell you how I would have handled it. So that Axios article that Anna's referring to, it has a headline that's vague. This is like Democrats livid with what's happening with Rashida Tlaib's resolution. So you look at it and you could think like Democrats livid with the Republicans for how they're reacting to it, or Democrats livid with Rashida Tlaib for actually being a Democrat. And you know how it's gonna go, right? I knew how it was gonna go, and then I started reading the article, and they're like, how dare she try to represent 80% of Democratic voters? Yep. We are livid with her. And why are they livid with her? Because she's going to expose them as frauds.
They got caught.
So why is this different than the Iran war resolution? So there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, the Iran war is way too big and spectacular for the Democrats to say that they're in favor of it. So they have to pretend to be against it. And if the Republicans need any votes, they'll get just enough votes from the Democrats to continue the war. So that's how this game is played. But even so, there are even some Democrats who support Israel who think this isn't helping Israel. This is a wrong strategy for Israel. So it's not like they care about America. They're just concerned that this war might hurt their beloved Israel. Lebanon, on the other hand, they all love that Israel is invading Lebanon and is going to take southern Lebanon because they're all paid by the Israeli lobby.
Right.
So when it comes to Lebanon, they're like, how dare you, Rashida Tlaib? That is Israel's right to take that land, right? And this Palestinian cares about the Lebanese, and of course, America is wasting all of our money on these wars. So,
and by the way, like they don't say it that way. They use that false argument of, well, they have the right to defend themselves, they're fighting Hezbollah. By the way, Rashida Tlaib's resolution, like this, all it would do is it would prevent US funding and military support for what Israel's doing in southern Lebanon. So basically what these Democrats are saying, Cenk, along with Republicans of course, is no. Israel is entitled to the United States paying for it. Entitled.
Yeah. And then they say things like, this is really interesting. The quote that Anna read you, they said, well, I mean, we don't have any ground operations in Lebanon. See, that's a calculated effort to deceive. Why? Because we're not talking about ground troops. We're talking about paying for a lot of their intelligence, coordinating with their intelligence, and paying for a lot of the military that they use to invade Lebanon.
Right.
So when a Democrat puts that message out, they think, oh, I'll trick my voters. I'll lie to them and pretend this is about ground troops when the resolution has nothing to do with ground troops. Now, why do they have to deceive you and figure out how to best deceive you? Because they actually work for Israel and not you. So this is obvious to anyone with a brain because they got paid by the Israeli lobby millions of dollars for all of them to vote with Israel. Now, we get to leadership. Because now let's be fair, guys. Hakeem Jeffries and I think it's, well, let's stick with Hakeem. But the rest of the Democratic leadership was also part of this message. They put out a message. They were, in the Axios article, they're deliberating. What do we do? And I'm like, that's so funny. Come on, we all know what you're gonna do.
They think we're stupid.
Yeah. So then they finally decided which way they were gonna go. I don't know if they got extra checks before the decision. So anyways, they say, we stand with the Lebanese people, the government of Lebanon, and the Lebanese armed forces in their efforts to live peacefully. Oh my God, wait, they might have gone with Rashida Tlaib. They're saying, yes, we need Lebanon to be safe. Let me read you the rest of it. Stand with the Lebanese armed forces in their efforts to live peacefully and defeat Hezbollah, a violent terrorist organization that is a sworn enemy of the United States.
Yeah.
Hezbollah's not invading Lebanon. Israel's invading Lebanon. In fact, there's, we gotta watch out for Hezbollah attacking Israel. Where is Hezbollah mainly attacking Israel? In southern Lebanon, where Israel has invaded their land. So, but look at these liars. Since they know you're against Israel, they're voters. They're like, well, we think our voters are idiots and we know the media will help us deceive people. So we'll pretend that Hezbollah's invading itself?
Well, I want to just note, you are correct that most of the strikes are being carried out in Lebanon, where currently IDF forces are occupying territory there. Hezbollah has begun taking some action, taking strikes basically in northern Israel in retaliation of what the IDF is doing. I mean, this is war. This is what you can expect when you have occupying forces who refuse to leave. And by the way, there was a ceasefire offered to Hezbollah today, and they rejected it. You want to know why? Because the ceasefire stipulated that the IDF would not pull out of southern Lebanon. They would continue occupying the territory. Well, that's the whole purpose of the war to begin with. And look, here's the other thing. Netanyahu says, we're not gonna stop until Hezbollah is disarmed. Mind you, Hezbollah is really the only resistance preventing Israel from taking over the entirety of Lebanon. But he wants Hezbollah disarmed. But on top of that, he wants Lebanon entirely demilitarized.
He said that today.
He did say that today. So I just want to ask people who are a little more, let's say, generous to the Israeli perspective. I want to ask you something. How would you feel about a neighbor, an antagonistic neighbor, telling us that we must demilitarize our country? We must get rid of our military, meaning our ability to defend ourselves and our own sovereignty, in order to prevent them from continuously attacking us and trying to take over our land. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, so I want to build on that because, if after Germany invaded Poland, they said, all right, well, let's just do a ceasefire and we keep Poland. People would be like, no, you don't keep Poland. But what if after they invaded and took France, they're like, okay, ceasefire. Now we take Poland, Belgium, and France. No, what? Ceasefire, right? Okay, now Israel attacks Lebanon and Hezbollah's inside Lebanon. So has Hezbollah done some totally ineffective drone strikes in northern Israel? Yes, okay. So now they say, well, do you see that? No, I don't see that. To Anna's point, if Russia invades America, does Russia have a right to say, how dare you attack Russia back? Bro, you attacked us first.
100%, exactly.
Of course I have a right to counterattack you, but look at all the deception in American media and in American government. They make it seem like Hezbollah has no right to defend itself on its own land, and that they're terrorists for defending their actual homes, the homes they live in, and that they're terrorists for counterattacking Israel after their invasion of their country. I mean, you see it, guys? Do you see it? Like, they've captured, Israeli lobby has captured the entire power structure of Washington, both the politicians and the media. So they tell us these fables, and they're literally actively trying to brainwash us into supporting this fascist imperial empire in the middle of the Middle East.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, let me just note one other thing. This is a perfect story. It encapsulates an argument that I've been trying to make, not just on this show, but on other shows over and over again. And I want people to really understand what I'm trying to get at, because people think it's you shedding your political values in order to make allies with people that you might find problematic. The bipartisan, or I should say partisan lines are being crossed, because I think ordinary Americans are waking up to the robbery we're experiencing right now in our country, and the fact that we do not live in a sovereign country, and it's about to get even less sovereign with the integration of the IDF into our own military. And so Democratic voters, Republican voters are seeing what's going on. They're enraged, they want it to stop. But then you look up, you look at Congress, and both parties are in cahoots in basically aiding and abetting the robbery.
100%. This is not the only thing that happened today. As we're going to tell you a little bit later in the show, they decided to merge our military with Israel, and the Democrats enthusiastically joined it.
Yes.
So we'll get to that in a second. Last two quotes from this story. The Democratic leadership continues, and they're so funny the way they're like this, but then that. They say, we also do not support any effort by the Trump administration to entangle the United States in a war in Lebanon or other parts of the Middle East. Well, that makes it sound like they're going to vote with Rashida Tlaib's resolution, which is HCON Resolution 84. So they conclude by saying, accordingly, we will vote no on HCON Res 84. It's
amazing.
It's amazing. All right, now all the way back to Max Miller. So he basically says that Rashida Tlaib's working with terrorists. She objects. There's like a 45-minute melee in Congress, and eventually they strike it from the record. I think it's always hilarious when they strike things from the record. We already know he said it, it's on tape.
Yeah.
Okay, I would have done something unusual if I was in Congress. I wouldn't have asked for it to be stricken from the record. I'm like, I'm totally fine with that, and I'm not offended by it. So I just give me my turn. Oh, okay. So this is what I think of Representative Max Miller. I think he's a terrorist sympathizer. The government of Israel has killed 100 times the civilians that Hamas or Hezbollah has, and they have a worse civilian kill ratio. And by any definition of terrorism, the government of Israel are terrorists. And Max Miller wants to send your money, your hard-earned money that you work so hard for, that you need for your rent or mortgage, over to a bunch of terrorists to murder their neighbors and take their land.
Yep.
So you want to start calling people terrorists? No problem. I'll start with Max Miller, and I've got about 525 out of 535 to get to before we're done. I don't need anything stricken from the record.
Yeah, I do like that approach a lot more, definitely. But again, credit to Rashida Tlaib for forcing this vote, because there's nothing that Democrats hate more than being exposed, and she exposed them.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.